Hey everyone, it's Nikolai. Today we are going to draw SpongeBob. So you can see that I've got here some layers already set up. I've got an image in the locked layer on the bottom. This is something I just pulled off the internet. And over here to the left side of my screen, I've got a JPEG file again that I just pulled off the internet that I'm using for color reference. Now I've already sampled some of those colors using the eyedropper tool. You can see my little samples here to the right side, and that's what I'm going to be using to color SpongeBob with a little bit later. I'm going to start off by creating basically his head because it's the most complicated part. And what I'm going to do is start with the pen tool, and I'm going to just put anchor points basically at the apexes of all of these curves. And you can see the curves are fairly subtle, but I'm going to go ahead and do this as best as I can. All right, I just changed the stroke to a bright pink, like 1-point stroke, and that's just so that I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And I'm just going to keep going around the edge here. Okay, and once I've got all of those done, I'm going to go ahead and just select a couple of them, or go ahead and select a couple of these using the direct selection tool. And actually, let's grab, there we go. So I selected this whole group and then switched over to my direct selection tool. Now I've got all these little corner widgets, and they're all basically connected. So all I have to do is click on one of these little corner widgets, hold down my mouse key and drag that as far as I can, and I've gone ahead and created a nice curvy line. Now I might want to go ahead and fix some of these later on. They might look like they're not quite as smooth as I want them to be. And if I wanted to do that, what I can do is select this, hit Command and H to hide all of those selection points, and then go over here to my pencil tool set and grab the smooth tool. And with the smooth tool, I can just click and drag over the top of some of these sections that look like maybe they're a little bit too pointy. Although I'm pretty pleased with this right now, so I think I just did it once. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go ahead and do the same thing over on the other side. And I'm going to start over here. And again, just draw straight lines, just clicking from point to point, not worrying too much about the curves. I'm trying to draw this down the center of this black line, because later on we're going to use the width tool and get some of those fluctuations going in there. Okay, so now that I've got this how I want it, once again, I've selected it. I click on my direct selection tool or hit A on the keyboard, and then grab one of these corner widgets, click, hold down, and just pull to get it to look good. And now I'm going to go ahead and fix a couple of these corners. I think this needs to be a little bit sharper. Just pull that out like so. Looks pretty good. And down here, I think we're probably okay. And again, I'm not worrying too much about making this exact. It's SpongeBob, he's spongy. We don't really need to make these outlines look completely 100% like the original drawing, but trying to get it close. Okay, so now that I've got that going, what I'm going to do is hit Shift W to get to my width tool. And I'm going to go ahead and click right up here where the thickest part of the line is and click and drag. And if you've used the width tool, you know that basically you can click on any part of a path and it will go ahead and basically make that path a little bit wider. And then you can adjust the path, the width as well, by going in and clicking and dragging inward towards the path to make it get a little bit thinner. I think that was a little bit extreme there, so I'm going to go zoom in. I want the center part of this path to be a little thinner than the top and bottom edges, but not super thin. Okay, that's looking a little better. This probably needs to come out a little bit here. There we go. I'm going to leave the bottom as is. And I'm going to go ahead and do this while I'm down here. Go ahead and grab the other part of SpongeBob and do the same thing. Okay, so now I've got these nice two shapes here. I'm going to click and drag, so I select both of these shapes, grab my Shapebuilder tool, which is Shift M on the keyboard, and you can see if I hold this over, it's sort of telling me which shapes it wants to make. And what I'm going to do is just click and drag across these two shapes and unite that all into one. And now you can see I have two nice separate shapes for his face. Okay, so next up what I'm going to do is work on SpongeBob's face. And I can see that the nose there is sort of sticking out. So I'm going to switch to my pen tool, and I might want to zoom in. I think I can do it from here. I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag and make this shape of his nose. Looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this shape of his cheek right here. I'm going to start with an oval shape, and I'll go in and use something called the path eraser to make that look the way I want it to look. So I'm just going to click and drag on this and massage that oval until I get it to be about the right size that I want. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to use the path eraser, and it's here. Path eraser can be found underneath the pencil or shaper tool, and all you need to do is just run that eraser right along the part of the path that you want to get rid of, and you don't even have to be that exact. So there, I just cut that oval to the shape that I wanted, and now it's going to get a little bit tricky here. I'm going to have to do some shape building to get the eyes correct. And let's zoom out just a bit, and I'll start off with an oval here. This oval and the big oval, the two that are overlapping the most. Use my Shapebuilder tool by hitting Shift and M, and then go over here and hold down Option. It looks like that part that I want to get rid of is shaded now. Click on that, and I'm all set there. Okay, that looks pretty good. This other one's going to be a little bit tricky to do because I've got these sort of complicated shapes down here. So let's see. I'm going to start off by creating the ovals as I did before. Just use the ellipse tool here. So there's some definitely overlapping shapes happening up here with his mouth. I'm going to go ahead and draw this shape here. Holding down Option so that I can swing that pen tool around, make this curve here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift X so I can flop the fill in stroke, and then hit P, get out of my pen tool, use my direct select tool, holding down Option so I can adjust this curve right here and make it do what I want it to do. Let's pull this back here. And zoom in just to get this. Like so. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. So hit Command C, and then I'm going to hide this by hitting, or actually I can just hit Command 2 to lock it, and then go ahead and hit Command F to paste in front. So now I've got the curve of this part of his mouth exactly where I want it, and I can grab my pen tool, click on this Add Anchor Point tool, add a new anchor point right there, and then go ahead and delete some of these other anchor points. And you can still see those anchors there, but that's because the other line is still behind it, the one that I locked. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and click with my pen tool and make the black part of his mouth. And I'll do some adjusting here as well. Okay, so now you can see I've got this shape right here, which is its own shape, and it matches up to the mouth. Let's go ahead and draw those teeth while I'm here. All right, this is looking pretty good so far. I'm going to go ahead and just draw in these ovals and circles. Again, I'll do this at high speed because it's just creating ellipses. Okay, that's looking all right. I'm going to go ahead and create his shirt now. And again, these are pretty straightforward shapes. I'll be doing this with a combination of the rectangle tool and mostly direct select tool. So just start here. And I'm going to draw these individually and do it like this. So I'm just drawing a rectangle and then grabbing the direct selection tool and clicking and dragging to sort of drag one half of it down and then drag a plain anchor point down. And I'll go ahead, since the perspective on this is going to be similar, just copy that by holding that option and dragging, and then I'll grab this one and match it up. And I'll be creating a sort of dark black outline for the whole thing. These guys are going to all be white, I believe. And so we'll make a big dark outline. We can see that's kind of heavier around the edges there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, now I'm going to do his arm and the sleeve here. This is going to use a new tool. First, I'm going to use the pen to just go ahead and do his sleeve right here. Again, holding down Alt to change the direction at the corner point, clicking and dragging that out, and looks pretty good. And now to make his arm. This is always a little bit tricky doing things like this. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start with the pen tool and go ahead and click and drag out a little bit where there's going to be a curve. And I'm going to basically create that first finger and then hit P. And then I'm going to go ahead and create these other fingers separately. And then we'll match them all up by using the Live Paint tool, which I don't use a lot, but I think in this case it is warranted. All right, so I'm going to connect this part up here. And if you're fairly new to Illustrator and you are wondering why I'm just leaving all of these things, making all these shapes that are overlapping each other, and it kind of looks like, it looks really sloppy. Basically, I'm going to go back and put all these things, layer them all, put them all in different layers so things are behind each other and in front of each other, etc. Okay, so to do this, I am going to first select all these items, and I want to make sure that I can do this correctly. I'm going to grab my live paint bucket, which is right underneath the shape builder, and yeah, if that red text comes up that says click to make a live paint group, that means it should work all right. And now I should be able to just use my arrow keys and cycle through colors. I'm going to go to yellow and fill that in. And for some reason it didn't quite like that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So this is doing what I want it to do. I'm just going to adjust the shapes a little bit, and I'm going to have to adjust these line widths. When you have a live paint object like this, where these things are all have a fill and a stroke, you can't make any adjustments to the line widths when you've got a live paint group. So in order to give this nice thick and thin that I want here, I'm going to have to go to Object and Expand. And once I do that, then I can go ahead and use the Width tool, I hope. Yeah. And just make these fingers a little bit wider. And so they'll have that nice thick, thin sort of cartoon feel that I'm looking for. So this is the only part of this that I'm doing kind of as I'm drawing, because I want to make sure that I remember. Yeah, and that looks pretty good. All right. Yeah, we're moving along pretty well here. We just have to get his legs, his other arm. Let's go ahead and do his legs right now. And again, this is going to be using a combination of, I'll do a rectangle here. And then I think what I'll do is use these little corner widgets again, because they come in so handy. All right, what I'm doing here is if you have the pen tool and you hover over a straight line, hold down the Option, you can actually bend that line, and it works pretty well. So again, I started off with these lines and then basically just hit the Option as I hovered over it, and you get that little curve with 2 anchor points on the end of it thing there. And that is how you know that you can then basically make a curve out of that. So I'll do that. And let's go ahead while I'm down here. I'm going to draw his shoes. And again, I'll do this with the pen tool because these are kind of weird blobby shapes. All right, so to make the hamburger buns, and also it looks like probably the hamburger patty itself, I'm going to start out with some regular shapes and then just push them around. So I'll start out with like a rounded rectangle here, and then go ahead and do a little rotation, and a little pushing and pulling on these shapes to basically get them, you know, distorted a bit, just the way I want them. You could also do this with a pen tool. Really kind of, you know, whatever way is easiest for you. I like showing ways that are not the pen tool because I know a lot of people don't like the pen tool. So here I'm going to go ahead and use this trick again, where I'm going to hold down the Option key and just pull this line down. All right, I'll do the same thing here. I'll start with an ellipse for the hamburger, top hamburger bun, because it's really close to being, it is an ellipse, but it's just a sort of ellipse that's been squashed on one side. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the top ellipse sort of lined up the way I want it, and then adjust the bottom side a little bit. So I don't quite have this shape right this time. Yeah, there we go. And with the with this lettuce here, I can kind of do the same thing that I did before, where I just draw sort of straight lines, and then once I get the shape sort of set up, I can use those little curve widgets again to grab the whole shape with the regular tool, and then grab the direct select, grab the curve widget, pull that to get a nice curvy line, and again I'm going to use Shapebuilder to get rid of that extra shape in there. Just blend those two together. Okay, and we just want to get the patty done now, and let's go ahead and do the same thing. Go ahead, I could use a rectangle tool, or I could use a pen tool. I'm going to just use a pen tool this time, because it's a pretty easy shaped pen tool. And we're going to do the same thing by using Shapebuilder here. Grab all three of these shapes, and I'm just going to get rid of the stuff that I don't need. Just blend those two together, and then blend that together, and that should be almost it. A little bit there too. Okay, we should be all set. And let's see here, I'm going to grab the bottom and do the same thing with Shapebuilder. So what I'm doing is yeah, it's a little tricky, you know, you have to sort of work with Shapebuilder a little bit to sort of figure out really the best way for it to work. But you get the hang of it pretty quickly, I think. Again, I'm going to get rid of some of these extra lines in here as well. Although I could just do this with layers, which I think I'm going to. I think I'm not going to bother shape building the hands and fingers. Looks like I lost a bit of his arm here at some point. Okay, so everything's pretty much set at this point. I'm going to go through now and use the width tool and basically create some more thicker and thinner lines on a bunch of these things and just kind of make it look better in general. So I'll speed this up for a bit. Here we go. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm pretty close to being ready to start coloring in. I think I'll need to start coloring in just so I can see how things are all fitting together and working. So let's go ahead and I'll start with, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and fill in his nose here because that's a big part of his face. And we're going to give that, I'm going to fill that with yellow, this yellow right here. And I also need to make the strokes black on these. So looks like it all right, so let's see. Yeah, I think what I might do here now is create a layer out of this whole thing and make it an outline. And that way I can have one nice outline piece and the rest of it can all be filled the colors that I want it to fill. So I'm going to click on this. You can see that I've got an outline layer there all set up. And I'm going to select all of this. Just grab all of that. And I'll have to go in there and do some massaging, but I'm going to start with the whole thing. Copy that, and actually I'll just drag this right in here and hold down Option while I do that. So I've made basically a duplicate layer by clicking the little outline, the artwork down here in the drawing layer and holding down Option and dragging it up to the outline layer. Alright, so now I know that's there. I'm going to go ahead and hide that layer so I can't see it. It doesn't bother me. And now I'm going to go ahead and start filling things in a little bit more. So let's grab this part of Bob, and he gets a slightly different greenish yellow. All right, and I can still see these magenta circles, so I'm going to grab them. And I'm going to make those the dark green. Sleeve gets to be white. Just going to hit white fill, black stroke. Okay. And I'm going to put that on top. Bring that to front. So the shirt here, the top part, these two rectangles are going to just be filled with white, and I'll keep the black outline as it is. And then I'm going to need to, actually it's got a pink outline, so I'll go ahead and make it a black outline just so I can see it. And these guys are going to be also filled with white. So this is where some of the layering is going to happen. And his tie is going to fill with red. I believe his tie is red with a black stroke. And we'll have to go in there and fix that stroke in a minute. These rectangles here are going to be solid black. I forgot. I want to go ahead and get these little dots on the hamburger and on his cheek here, and to do those I'm going to use the blob brush. And you can make the blob brush bigger and smaller by using the bracket tools, and the blob brush is great for just doing exactly what it says, just little blobs. And again, I can do those here as well. Yeah, and every once in a while, what happens here is that I'm moving things to front or to back, and when you do that, you lose something. And usually, if you hit Command or Control Y, you can find it pretty easily just by doing that. And let's see, this shirt should not be in the front like that, so I'm going to send that to back. There we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and color in his arms and fingers and the burger, and then we'll figure out the outline process. So I'm going to bring up the outline and then get rid of everything else. And I have to sort of remember what things I want to keep and what things I want to get rid of. So it can be a little bit tricky here. I don't need any of these shapes here, I don't think. I'm going to just delete these. And I'm pretty sure that the eyes I have outlined already, and the nose I have outlined already. So I want to kind of, yeah, again, I'm going to use the shape builder, and I'm going to kind of put things, kind of combine objects so that they're all sort of one outline. I don't need a lot of these interior lines. So some of these I'm just going to get rid of entirely. Okay, to get the outline of his basically his body here, I'm going to go ahead and just use the Pathfinder and just unite that whole shape. And there's some extra shapes in there, so I can also go in, clean this up using the shape builder. Basically just grab this all into one big shape. That will work. Looks like there's still some extra shapes in there, unfortunately. So I might have to go in manually and do some deleting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hide the original image. It's going to help me figure out which things I want to get rid of, which things I want to hide, which things I want to keep. I think that on the drawing layer, so I think I've already drawn some of these outlines, so I'm going to go ahead and delete a lot of these pink lines that are on the outline layer right now. On a new layer just to make sure that they sit on top the way I want them to. Okay, so for like his arm and the hamburger, we do want an outline there of the whole thing, and so I am going to use the shape builder here. And maybe what I'll just do is grab all of these pink lines and go to select and say same stroke color and just change them all to black for the moment. Yeah, so in cases like this, I'm going to go ahead and check what I've got on the drawing versus the outline layer. Okay, and that's looking all right. So I do want to get rid of these lines here. So I am going to end up using maybe doing a little bit of shape builder or some other tricks in here. I might just go ahead and grab this and actually have it line up so that I don't have to worry about doing the shape builder. But these guys are not going to work the way they are. That's what I want to do. There we go. A little finessing there with the Shapebuilder tool. Let's bring back the drawing layer. Okay, that's starting to look how I want it to look. Okay, so in the case of this shirt sleeve here, even though I've got it filled, it's because it's on a layer beneath that outline layer. I want it to be above. So what I'm actually going to do is drag this shirt sleeve and just put it on this upper layer, and it should overlap the way I want it to. And I think I'm going to do the same thing with this part of the tie as well. And then finally, maybe even these shirt collars here. And there was a line here that I sort of left off before that I'm going to add in, which is sort of his lower lip. And I want this part of the shirt to be behind. So let's see what layer it's on. That's on the outline layer, so I'm going to take that back down to the drawing layer, send it to the back, and now we're all set there too. There's a few spots I probably would still want to clean up, but I think most of that is there. But that's it. There's SpongeBob, and it took a little while, but I think it looks pretty good. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down below and I will check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.